Thanks very much for staying with us. Time now for Eye on Africa with me, Georgia Calvin-Smith. Tonight, Ngozi Okonjo-Iweala makes history. The Nigerian becomes the first woman and first person from the African continent to become the head of the World Trade Organization. Also, Jacob Zuma could be in contempt of court for refusing to appear before an anti-graft inquiry. The judge heading up the investigation wants to see the former South African president put in jail over his no-show. And DR Congo's president, Felix Tshisekedi, moves further out from under the shadow of his predecessor by naming an ally as new prime minister. Sama Lukonde Kyenge replaces a former confidant of ex-leader Joseph Kabila. But first, for the first time, the body that deals with international rules of trade will be headed up by a woman. Nigeria's Ngozi Okonjo-Iweala will also be the first African to take on the role of the Director General of the World Trade Organization. World Trade Organization.
Ngozi Okonjo-Iweala is not a woman to rest on her laurels. At age 66, she's embarking on a new challenge, reforming the World Trade Organization.
I will say that it's both exciting and daunting at the same time to be here because I take the reins of the WTO at a time of great uncertainty and challenge.
Okonjo-Iweala was appointed the group's new director general Monday after championing her belief in trade's ability to lift people out of poverty.
So the WTO is at this point in time is also facing so many challenges. And it's clear to me that deep and wide-ranging reforms are needed. And as I said before, it cannot be business as usual at the WTO.
In her new role, Okonjo-Iweala can mine her impressive experience. Born in Nigeria, her teenage years were marked by civil war. At age 19, she left for the United States, studying development economics first at Harvard, then MIT. She joined the World Bank in 1982, rising to vice president before being called to serve her country. As Nigeria's finance minister, Okonjo-Iweala fought corruption and secured the cancellation of $18 billion worth of foreign debt. She later returned to the World Bank and became chairperson of Gavi, the Vaccine Alliance's board. Her candidacy to lead the WTO had been blocked by former U.S. President Donald Trump, but new President Joe Biden endorsed her, facilitating her appointment. Okonjo-Iweala becomes the first woman and African to lead the trade body. She says her first priority is to get the global economy going again in the face of the COVID-19 pandemic.
Well, in South Africa, Jacob Zuma's latest no-show could find him in contempt of court. The former president defied an order to appear before an inquiry that's looking into allegations of graft and abuse of power during his 9-year tenure. That ended in 2018 when he was removed from office. Deputy Chief Justice Raymond Zondo wants to see Zuma in jail for his defiance. I asked our Jane Flanagan how likely that was.
Well, Georgia, it would be ironic, wouldn't it? Because Jacob Zuma has faced a number of criminal allegations against him. And indeed, he is due to stand trial on multiple corruption charges. And it would be extraordinary in a way if he ended up behind bars for something like this. However, he has gone toe-to-toe with Judge Zondo now and the Constitutional Court, the highest court in South Africa, and defied both the inquiry and the court and said he wants nothing to do with this inquiry into allegations of corruption during his 9 years presidency. So the ball is now going to be in the Constitutional Court and see what they make of his defiance today. He did respond, the former president, this evening, putting out a 12-page statement reiterating his pledge that he will have nothing to do with the court and has no intention of answering Judge Zondo's questions.
Could this no-show by Zuma have any wider political repercussions for the ruling ANC party?
Well, actually, it does put him at odds with the party he used to lead, because only yesterday the party put out a statement saying it called upon all its members in official positions and not to fully cooperate with the inquiry that was in fact set up by Mr. Zuma, and said that anything other than full cooperation would be a sign of a counter-revolution. Of course, Mr. Zuma does still have many supporters within the party, and this is really going to test not only President Ramaphosa's pledge to really get tough with corruption, but really test just how deep the support base within the ANC is for Mr. Zuma.
Well, as Jay mentioned there, the prospect of jailing 78-year-old Zuma over his no-show has been met with some mixed reactions amongst South Africans.
Served, you know, if that must happen, then I believe it'll be good for the economy as well, because people will know that if you do bad things, you will go to jail.
Jacob Zuma is just a freedom fighter of everyone. He fight for this country to be what is it today. So for me to say Jacob Zuma has to be sent to prison for 3 months, I don't think it's an easy thing to say it. But they must find another avenue to solve the issue than to send him to the prison.
If there is theft, someone needs to answer for it. So I feel like he should. But also the means in which they are calling him to do it, I guess, is questionable. But I don't know. I guess we'll see.
Well, DR Congo has a new prime minister. Sama Lukonde was until Monday the CEO of the country's largest state-owned mining company. He replaces an ally of former President Joseph Kabila as current leader Felix Tshisekedi chips away at his predecessor's clout. Clement Bonnereau fills us in.
The appointment of a new prime minister is another victory for President Felix Tshisekedi as he moves to further diminish the influence of his predecessor, Joseph Kabila. Sama Lukonde is a relatively unknown figure in DR Congo's politics. His father, however, was a political heavyweight in the mineral-rich Katanga province. Lukonde was a member of the National Assembly from 2006 to 2011. He also briefly served as sports minister under the former president, Joseph Kabila. Once close to the former Katanga governor, Moise Katumbi, he supported Felix Tshisekedi in the last presidential election in 2018 and has since become a trusted ally of the Congolese president. He was later appointed CEO of Gécamine, DR Congo's largest state mining company, in 2019. His appointment as prime minister is surprising to some observers who expected President Tshisekedi to give the post to a better-known politician. But sources close to the president, however, argue that he is a man of consensus, well-liked and respected across party boundaries. His main task will now be to form a new government with the support of an overwhelming majority of MPs who have recently switched allegiance to President Felix Tshisekedi. He's promised to appoint a small cabinet of technocrats to implement much-needed social and economic reforms.
Clement Bonnereau there for us. Now, Monday saw Zimbabwe prolong its coronavirus lockdown by another fortnight as it gears up to start its vaccination campaign this week. On Monday, the country received its first donated batch of 200,000 Sinopharm vaccines from China. Ryan Truscott has more.
In Air Zimbabwe, Boeing landed at the Robert Mugabe International Airport at dawn carrying these 200,000 Sinopharm vaccine doses from Beijing. In a State of the Nation address, President Emmerson Mnangagwa called it a gesture of great humanity. He said vaccines from other countries, including India and Russia, were also on their way. Another 600,000 vaccines will be bought from China, and it's understood Zimbabwe will also benefit from the WHO's COVAX facility. Official media here is reporting the Sinopharm vaccine could be ready for rollout within 48 hours. That'll put the country ahead of neighbouring South Africa, where the coronavirus toll has been much higher, with close to 48,000 deaths. South Africa put its own early rollout on hold due to concerns over the efficacy of the AstraZeneca vaccine against the South African strain of the virus. Tens of thousands of health workers here will be among the first to be vaccinated. The government wants to vaccinate 10 million people out of a total population of around 15 million. but there may well be resistance from locals. Some are already saying on social media that they don't want to be used as guinea pigs. Some health workers have also complained to local media that they haven't yet been trained to recognize side effects of this vaccine. Nevertheless, Zimbabwe, like other countries in the region, is no stranger to mass immunization campaigns. With a network of healthcare facilities in most districts, it's likely that infrastructure the government will lean on to get the vaccines out.
Ryan Truscott there for us in Zimbabwe. Now, this week, Libya marks the 10th anniversary of its revolution. The end of the 42-year rule of Muammar Gaddafi came at great cost. The country has since been split between East and West and seen a decade of violence. There is hope that a planned unity government may bring stability, but some former revolutionaries still remain sceptical.
10 years ago, Mohsen Hassan bin Dao was wounded during the uprising against Muammar Gaddafi. The dictator's forces opened fire and he was hit in his spine. He was treated in Europe and came back to Libya 2 years ago.
الدكتور نفسه في ألمانيا فقال علميا إنك أنت مستحيل ترجع لك الحركة علميا، لكن زي ما تقول هم ما يؤمنوش بالله الحركة رجعت هيك إن عندك حظ في الحياة من جديد إن ترجع حركة بسيطة وتمارس حياتك طبيعية.
Since the fall of Gaddafi in 2011, Libya has been racked by conflict. 10 years after the revolution, Mohsen is worried about the future of Libya's 7 million inhabitants. Fighting has diminished in recent months, but power cuts and fuel shortages are frequent.
المتوقع بعد ما رجعت في 2019 طبعا احنا لما طلعنا في 2011 نبوا ليبيا للأفضل وللتغيير وكل شيء بتكون أفضل ومن البلدان المتقدمة.
Before he was toppled in 2011, Gaddafi had been in power for more than 4 decades. A new interim government has just been named, but for years Libya has been split in 2 camps. The Western forces are backed militarily by Turkey and Qatar. The east is controlled by strongman Khalifa Haftar. He is supported by the United Arab Emirates, Egypt and Russia.
Well, that's it for Eye on Africa. Thanks for joining us. Do so again. Take care. Thanks very much for staying with us. Time now for Eye on Africa with me, Georgia Calvin-Smith.
Reporting from across West Africa.
All the latest in politics, economics and the arts in Africa on France 24. Our journalists are in every region, every country, to report on the emergence of a continent of unparalleled riches. Bringing you Africa's stories on France 24.
Thanks for joining us. Do so again. Take care.
Liberté, égalité, actualité.
Sidi Bouzid, Tunisia, December 2010. A young fruit seller sets himself on fire. He feels ignored and abandoned by the government. His death stirs nationwide protests for democracy. It's the beginning of the Arab Spring.
We went out to protest against the regime. We didn't think we were making a revolution. But when the regime fell, we had dreams.
While Tunisians today enjoy freedom of expression, some are nostalgic for the dictatorship of President Ben Ali.
We had security, a health system, safety, and a bit of freedom.
Our reporters are in Sidi Bouzid, in a Tunisia caught between 2 stools. Have the achievements of the revolution met the dreams and expectations of the Tunisian people?
Sidi Bouzid revisited all this week here on France 24.